Hello there. How are my young gentlemen and ladies? All doing wonderfully well, I'm sure. Well, really look forward to seeing you all. So today I have this story about disaster and survival, and I found it extremely intriguing and interesting about this young boy who survived. Let's see what happens with him. So the story goes this, it's Hatchet. The name of the story is Hatchet, right? And it has been written by, I'm just going to tell you in a jiffy, Gary, excuse me, I'll have to take off my glasses. It's Gary Paulson. So the story is Hatchet by Gary Paulson. So let's get started. So he almost jumped with the word spoken aloud. It seemed so out of place. The sound, he tried it again. So here I am. So what's happening? He jumped up with the word spoken aloud. It seems so out of place. So here I am. So like somebody is waking up from unconsciousness. Right. Okay. And there it is, he thought. For the first time since the crash, his mind started to work. Since the crash, his brain triggered and he began thinking, here I am, and where is that? Here I am. Where am I? He pulled himself once more up the bank to the tall tree without branches and sat again with his back against the rough bark. There he is sitting. I hope you can see clearly, but that's the best version I could get. So, as he pulled himself, it was hot now, but the sun was high and to his rear, that means his back, and he sat in the shade of the tree in a relative comfort. They were things to sort out. Let's see what was to be sorted out. Here I am, and that is nowhere. With his mind opened and thoughts happening, it all tried to come in with a rush. All of that had occurred and he could not take it. The whole thing turned into a confused jumble that made no sense. I'm sure it's not making sense to you what he's talking about, but he's talking about a crash, right? So I hope it gets your minds wheeling on. Okay. So he fought it down and tried to take one thing at a time. He had been flying north to visit his father for a couple of months in the summer, and the pilot had had a heart attack and had died, and the plane had crashed somewhere in the Canadian northwards, but he did not know how far they had flown or in what direction or where he was. Do you get it? So this is the situation. There he is. This is the Canadian wood in the north, but he's not sure. Once the pilot died, nobody was controlling or steering the plane. So he doesn't know which direction it went into, but somewhere to the north. Why? Because he had been he was on his way to visit his father. Slow down, he thought. Slow down more. My name is Brian Robinson. So after the concussion, and I'm 13 years old, and I'm alone in the north woods of Canada. So he's a boy of your age, a child of your age. All right, he thought. That's simple enough. I was flying to visit my father and the plane crashed. and sank in a lake. This was the plane sunk in the lake. Okay, they keep it that way, short thoughts. So he is going back and step by step moving forward in a chronological manner. I do not know where I am, which doesn't mean much. More to the point, they do not know where I am. They meaning anybody who might be wanting to look for me, the searchers. Now these are all his thoughts, bright thoughts. They would look for him, look for the plane. His father and mother would be frantic. They would tear the world apart to find him. Brian had seen searches on the news, seen films about lost planes. When a plane went down, they mounted extensive searches and almost always found the plane within a day or two. Pilots all filed flight plans, a detailed plan for where and when they were going to fly, with all the courses explained. Now how you should say organized he is going on in a very sorted out way. Well, that's unusual for a boy of his age. So instead of getting lost in frightful thoughts, he's thinking logically that what's going to happen and where, he wants to know. He wants to keep hoping that he will be saved. And they would come. They would look for him, he was sure. The searchers would get government planes and cover both sides of the flight plan filed by the pilot and search until they found him. Maybe even today, they might come today. This was the second day after the crash. No, Brian frowned. Was it the first day or the second day? They had gone down in the afternoon and he had spent the whole night out cold. So this was the first real day. But they could still come today. They would have started the search immediately when Brian's plane did not arrive. Yay, they would probably come today. Yay! Probably come here with amphibious planes, small bush planes with floats that could land right here on the lake and pick him up and take him home. Which home? The father's home or the mother's home? He stopped the thinking. It didn't matter. Either on to his dad or back to his mother. Either way, he would probably home by late night or early morning. Home where he could sit down and eat a large, cheesy, juicy burger with tomatoes and double fries with ketchup and a thick chocolate milk shake. And there came hunger. Oops! Brian rubbed his stomach. The hunger had been there, but something else. Fear, pain had held it down. Bear with me, I just need few sips of tea and I'll get started again. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm so grateful for your patience. There we go. Brian rubbed his stomach. I was here, the hunger had been there, but something else. Fear, pain had held it down. He had forgotten about food just because of the pain and the fear. Now with the thought of the burger, the emptiness roared at him. He could not believe the hunger, you know how hunger pangs feel, and had never felt it this way. The lake water had filled his stomach, but left it hungry. The lake water had filled his stomach, but left it hungry, and now it demanded food, screamed for food, and there he was, he thought, absolutely nothing to eat. Nothing. Oh my God, what a strange feeling. And to such a young boy. What did they do in films when they got stranded like this? Oh yes, the hero usually found some kind of plant that he knew was good to eat, and that took care of it. Just ate the plant until he was full, or use some kind of cute trap to catch an animal and cook it over a slick little fire, and pretty soon he had a full 8-course meal. This is what happens in films actually, doesn't it? The trouble, Brian thought, looking around, was that all he could see was grass and brush. There was nothing obvious to eat, and apart from about 1 million birds in the beaver, he hadn't seen animals to trap and cook. And even he got one somehow, he didn't have any matches, so he couldn't have a fire. Now that was a scary thought. Thank you. Nothing. Nothing. It came back to that. It came back to that. He had nothing. Well, almost nothing. As a matter of fact, he thought, I don't know what I've got or I haven't got. Maybe I should try and figure out just how I stand. It'll give me something to do, keep me from thinking of food until they come to find me. Brian had once had an English teacher, a guy named Patrick, who was always talking about being positive, thinking positive, staying on top of things. That's how Patrick had put it. Stay positive and stay on top of things. Brian thought of him now, wondered how to stay positive and stay on top of this. All Patrick would say is that I have to get motivated. So Patrick is the boy's name. I have to get motivated. Wow, what an amazing child of 13. He was always telling kids to get motivated. No, Pepperidge is the English teacher. Yes, you got me. Brian changed position so that he was sitting on his knees. He reached into his pockets and took out everything he had and laid it on the grass in front of him. It was pitiful enough. A quarter, 3 dimes, a nickel, and 2 pennies, a fingernail clipper, a billfold with a $20 bill. In case you get stranded at the airport in some small town and have to buy food, his mother had said, and some old pieces of paper. And on his belt, still there, the hatchet his mother had given him. He had forgotten it and now reached around and took it out of his pockets. In the grass, there was a touch of rust already forming on the cutting edge of the blade, and he rubbed it off with his thumb. Right, so there he is, spreading his things in the ground, in the grass right in front of him, and finding things, maybe something that could help him cut plants or food, or maybe light fire. That was it. He frowned. No, wait, if he was going to play the game, might as well play it right. Patrick would tell him to quit messing around. Get motivated. Get motivated. Look at all of it, Robertson. He had a pair of good tennis shoes, now almost dry, and socks and jeans and underwear and a thin leather belt and a t-shirt with an anorak so torn it hung on him in tatters, so even the t-shirt was torn. And a watch. And a watch. He had a digital watch still on his wrist, but it was broken from the crash, the little screen blank. And he took it off and almost threw it away, but stopped the hand motion and laid the watch on the grass with the rest of it. He didn't throw it. There, that was it. So he's remembering his teacher, a great motivator, an English teacher like me, but he was a great motivator. No, wait, one other thing. Those were all the things he had, but he also had himself. Patrick used to drum that into them. You are your most valuable asset. Don't forget that. You are the best thing you have. Whoa! So I'll repeat. You are your most valuable asset. Don't forget that. You are the best thing you have. Brian looked around again. I wish you were here, Patrick. I'm hungry and I'd trade everything I have for a hamburger. I am hungry! He said it aloud, in normal tones at first, then louder and louder until he was yelling it. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry! When he stopped, there was silence. May I check who this is? Hi, Nabila. Thank you for joining in. Okay, that's Nabila. When he stopped shouting, not just from him, but the clicks and blurps and bird sounds of the forest as well went, shh, quiet. The noise of his voice had startled everything, and it was quiet. He looked around, listened, with his mouth open, and realized that in all his life he had never heard silence before. Complete, absolute silence. There had always been some sound, some kind of sound, which is true. In our lives, we always have this kind of sound. Hi, Abiha and Ibrahim. Oh, you're my regular listeners. I love you. Thank you. It lasted only a few seconds, but it was so intense that it seemed to become part of him. Nothing. There was no sound. And then the bird started again, chirping, chirping, cheeping, cheeping, and some kind of buzzing and said bzzz, and then a chattering and a cawing, cow, 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 and soon there was the same background of sound, which left him still hungry. Of course, he thought, putting the coins and the rest back in his pocket and the hatchet in his bed. Of course, if they come tonight or even if they take as long as tomorrow, the hunger is no big thing. People have gone for many days without food as long as they have got water. Even if they don't come until late tomorrow, I will be all right. Lose a little weight, maybe, but the first hamburger and milkshake and fries will bring it right back. He's right. So he's keeping the positive images in his mind. Yes, a mental picture of a hamburger, the way they showed it in the television commercials, thundered into his thoughts. Rich colors, the meat juicy and hot. And we don't pay attention to it, right? He pushed the picture away, so even if they didn't find him until tomorrow, he thought he would be all right. He had plenty of water, although he wasn't sure if it was good and clean or not. He sat again by the tree, his back against it. There was a thing bothering him. He wasn't quite sure what it was, but it kept chewing at the edge of his thoughts. Something about the plane and the pilot that would change things. Ah, there it was. The moment when the pilot had his heart attack. His right foot had jerked down on the rudder pedal and the plane had slewed sideways like this. So the memory of just before the crash is coming back to him. Why did that keep coming into his thinking that way, nudging and pushing? What did that mean? It means a voice in his thoughts said that they might not be coming for you tonight or even tomorrow. When the pilot, now because he knows the plane flew quite a bit and it was swaying left or right, it was out of control. And it was at quite a speed, so he doesn't know how far and how off the track or the route he was, making it difficult for the searchers and his parents to find him. So that was it. That was gnawing at him and kind of chewing inside his brain. Push the rudder pedal the plane. It means a voice in his thought said that they might not be coming for you tonight or tomorrow. When the pilot pushed the rudder pedal, the plane had jerked to the side and assumed a new course. So it had gone off course. Brian could not remember how much it had pulled around, but it would not have had to be much, because after that, with the pilot dead, Brian had flown for hour after hour on the new course. Oh, and this is where you can see the pilot in the cockpit with his head down, dead, and Brian sitting, Robinson sitting right next to him. Well, away from the flight plan the pilot had filed, many hours, it may be 160 miles an hour. If it was only a little off course with that speed and time, Brian might now be sitting 700 miles off to the side of the recorded flight plan. Thank you. And they would probably search most heavily at first along the flight plan course. They might go out to the side a little, but he could easily be there. 400 miles to the side. He could not know, could not think of how far he might have flown wrong, because he didn't know the original course and didn't know how much they had pulled sideways. Now that's something to be worried about, isn't it? Quite a bit. That's how he remembered it. Quite a jerk to the side, right? It pulled his head. It pulled his head over sharply when the plane had swung around. They might not find him for 2 or 3 days. Whew, look at the thoughts coming in, filtering in. He felt his heartbeat increase as the fear started, as the anxiety started. What if they don't find him that soon? The thought was there, but he fought it down for a time. Then it's exploded out. They might not find him for a long time. And the next thought was there as well. What? That they might never find him? But that was panic, and he fought it down and tried to stay positive. They searched hard. When a plane went down, they used many men in planes, and they would go to the side. They would know he was off from the flight path. He had talked to the man on the radio. They would somehow know. It would be all right. It would be all right. It would be all right. They would find him. They would find him. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon, soon, soon. They gradually, like sloshing oil, his thoughts settled back and the panic was gone. He controlled his panic. Say they didn't come for 2 days. No, say they didn't come for 3 days. Even push that to 4 days. He could live with that. He would have to live with that. He would have to. He didn't want to think of them taking longer. But say 4 days, he had to do something. At the bottom of the tree and stayed down at the lake for 4 days and nights. No, for 4 days doing nothing. He was in deep woods and didn't have any matches. Couldn't make a fire. There were large things in the woods. There were wolves, he thought, and bears and other things. Whoops. And in the dark he would be in the open here, just sitting at the bottom of a tree. Now he's rationalizing his thoughts. Okay. He looked around suddenly, felt the hair on the back of his neck go up. Things might be looking at him right now, waiting for him, waiting for dark so they could move in and take him. He fingered the hatchet at his belt. It was the only weapon he had, but it was something. He had to have some kind of shelter. No, make that more. He had to have some kind of shelter, and he had to have something to eat. He pulled himself to his feet and jerked the back of his shirt down before the mosquitoes could get it. He had to do something to help himself. I have to get motivated, he thought, remembering Patrick. Right now I'm all I've got. I have to do something. Now this is an extract and it really leaves us wondering what happened next, but this is what it is. This is the extract I could find and I found it very intriguing. Did you enjoy it? Huh? Did you? Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad. And you can answer a few of my questions maybe, like what was the name of the boy? What was the name of the teacher? Where was he going off for summers? And what happened? Why did the plane crash? And what was the most fearsome thought in his mind? I would love to get answers, and any ideas and any suggestions are more than welcome. Thank you, Ibrahim and Abiha and Nabila. Lovely to see you all. I hope you enjoyed this. I loved sharing it with you. Look forward to seeing you again next Thursday. It is, and an Urdu story on Tuesdays, and the younger kids story with Scary Ummi on Saturdays, as you all know. So see you soon. Enjoy your week and in the weekend. Bye-bye.